Hello, scumbags, and welcome to High Ground. I'm Andrew Fantasia.
I'm Brocksmink.
You better be Brocksmink. If you're not, we're in trouble. What are we talking about today?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Oh God. Okay, I gotta go study for like 45 minutes because I don't know much about
If I'm reading properly, it's the death of the EU. What is the EU, Andrew?
That is the Expanded Universe.
Ah, yes.
It was very big in the 90s. So were parachute pants, and look where they are now. But it was the whole concept of, hey, we're not having new Star Wars movies anytime soon, so let's make books instead. Let's make lots of books, lots of comics. Dark Horse had, like, I think the exact number is 7 trillion different kinds of comics for Star Wars. So it was up there. And now, Brock, you are a voracious reader of both novels and comics. I mean, we are surrounded by your reading.
You can't see them because I framed them out, but I mean, you kind of can. Like,
it's like the Beauty and the Beast library in here. It's all over. So, how much of the old Expanded Universe?
I don't have a lot. I think I have the Heir to the Empire trilogy. I had more at one point, but you know.
Yeah.
I hit puberty and wanted to talk to girls, so they're like, "Be gone, Star Wars!" No, I never turned my back on Star Wars. You kind of, growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends that like Star Wars. So at a point, you're like, I mean, it's amazing that I'm doing a podcast now about Star Wars. But back in the day, it was, life was hard. You couldn't talk about it. But that's one of the beauty of the Expanded Universe was you had the 3 movies. But then you're like, well, I really like that. I wish they would make more. And then you go to your local library or bookstore and you're like, there's a whole section of just Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
Yeah.
What was your favorite parts of the Expanded Universe?
I only delved into it a little bit. Like I was always more of a reference book kind of guy. Like I love the complete guide to characters, complete guide to vehicles, all that snaz. But I did read what I think they're called the Jedi Academy trilogy, the one with Kip Durin and where Luke is training kids on Yavin, and that was okay. And then recently, once this show started, I read Shadows of the Empire finally, and I read the Heir to the Empire trilogy finally. And there were some Clone Wars books and other random things, but none of them really popped for me the way the reference books did. But you're right; it was when I was reading that stuff in the late '90s. I had maybe like my cousin was the only guy I could really talk to about Star Wars that I knew. I mean, my cousin was versed, like I could say Rodian and he would know what I'm talking about. But that was about it. Like there was nobody else really in my circle of friends, small as it was back then, because I was a nerd, who really could get me. Like if I walked into school and was like, "Hey guys, aren't Rodians cool?" They'd be like, "Oh, Andrew's off his meds again."
Get him.
Yeah. So I never really had a reason to dive into it. I didn't know anybody who was saying, "Andrew, man, you got to read about the frickin', the Dark Horse number 976 because Luke found a thing." Like nobody cared.
Yeah.
So that was when Disney did the buyout and they announced we're, pushing all of that away. That is no longer canon. That was not a wound for me at all. It was zero loss as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
Did you feel different? I know plenty of people felt differently.
Maybe I was a little bummed because Thrawn is a cool character. Mara Jade is a good character. I know you like to say Mara. Mara Jade was a cool character, and I always loved the things about the Solo kids. So I was first introduced to Anakin Solo in a young reader's book, and then Jaina and Jason Solo. And then I lost touch with it, and then finding out where all those characters ended up, it was cool. It was like total side act bar. It was like reading New Mutants back in the day, where it was a young new team, and then they become so much more. I mean, you could argue, but they took those. It was like they came up with the idea of let's start the same kind of idea, but with new characters, and then we'll just integrate them into other books. That was kind of neat how they did that. But yeah, when it was announced that doesn't count anymore, it was like, that kind of sucks because you want those characters, but it makes sense because for someone today to want to learn about the backstory of all that it's almost impossible. I mean, it's possible, but it's just there's so much to read. And you don't want to segregate or push away a fan. And at the same note, it's like you want to write your own story. And like they do this with Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, where they change it up a bit. Like, would you really want to watch a movie of a book you've already read?
Exactly.
So.
And like you said, not only was there so much to read, but the vast majority of it was not a great, entertaining read. Yeah. I mean, I don't quote me on this. I was kind of small to know any better, but as far as I know, back then, a guy is writing a Yuzhan Vong book. He's not calling up, a lady who's doing another book and saying, "Hey, you wanna make sure this matches up with what you're doing? You wanna put some quality in this universe?" No, I don't think anybody was doing that back then. They're just like, "I'm gonna write about lightsabers now because somebody paid me to," and I'd be that excited too if I had that opportunity. So I was, when they announced this, that wiping the slate clean, that's not canon. Was I, sure, I had spent time pouring through these reference books, knowing that, okay, Dash Rendar is a person, Thrawn is a person, and they're not around anymore. Yeah, that's a little bit of a downside, but I mean, at the same time, those are like 3 characters. Then you've got, you got to look at, there were people like Elder Sticketh. Do you know who Elder Sticketh was? Yeah. Very few people do, and it doesn't matter. He's not canon anymore. Neither is Dev Sabwara. Neither is...
Lobaka.
Lobaka, exactly. Reese. Y'all miss Reese, right? So there's so much of it where it's just like, who cares? Who cares that it's not canon anymore? And but what's beautiful is the story group understands this worked, X worked, Y worked, and Z worked. So we're gonna put those in new canon. That's why we've got Thrawn now. Yeah. That's why we've got Darth Bane now. All these little things are still going to be part of this. They're just going to be better. We just have to wait for them to the right moments for them to come in. Now, Leland Chi apparently has recently said in an interview, because they've been asked a billion times, why did you wipe the slate clean? And he pretty much... Who
is that?
Leland Chi is from the Lucasfilm Story Group.
Oh, okay.
So he's up there with Kiri Hart and Pablo and Hidalgo and everybody. Right. And his answer was very blunt. He was like, listen, in the EU, the Yuzhan Vong crushed Chewbacca with a moon and he's dead.
Spoilers.
So we can't make episode 7 have Chewbacca be dead and have, that line of dialogue would be just the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, where's Chewbacca? Oh, the Yuzhan Vong crushed him with a moon. Yeah. Like, that's...
It sounds ridiculous, but like when it happened, not that I read it, but like I remember hearing about it and reading stuff after, because I kind of jumped back into Star Wars comics every once in a while. It was like profound. It was like the matter of how he died wasn't hugely focused on. It was the fact that you killed Chewbacca. It's like, what? I can't remember what I was reading. I think it was the last run that Dark Horse did on Star Wars. I think that's where I jumped in again, and they mentioned Chewbacca, and I think somebody becomes the co-pilot in the Falcon. It might have been Lobaka, which is Chewbacca's nephew.
He's very patchy.
I think so. Yeah. I can't remember now. It's going to kill me. Anyways, so yeah. But in regards to the EU, I think even though they've said that doesn't count, and you can still go by and read these books. They're called Legends now, and it's labeled. Because like reading Heir of the Empire now is funny because it's like the idea Sith wasn't relevant till early 2000s.
Yeah,
you were just a dark force wielder. But anyways. It's fun to read them, but you can still investigate them. Go to a used bookstore; there's tons of them. But I think Disney has learned from what the Expanded Universe did, and that's what they're rebuilding right now. So, as much as you hate that it's gone, you're kind of given a whole new thing to start with. They understand that like using the books, using the video games, using the comics, gives you that extra detail that you want.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we've mentioned... I know I said it to James a bunch. I don't know if I've said it to you. There are points where I wish that they would just hold off on the books till the trilogy is done, because they can't... There hasn't been much mention of Luke.
Not at all.
In any of the books, besides the Legends of Luke Skywalker, which were good after seeing Last Jedi. We're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's... We got to take it as that. It's like... They've learned what you can do with it. So they're just recreating their own new expanded universe.
Yeah, and they're they had 20 years of experience doing one thing. They learned from the mistakes of that.
Yeah.
And now they're like, it's going to be better now because we know what worked and what didn't. The whole concept of cherry picking is still very much, in vogue too. I mean, we didn't get Jason Solo. We got Ben Solo, who is very similar, just, more complex, well acted by a really talented actor. And I care more about Kylo Ren than I ever did about Jason Solo. And the same goes for the other characters. The Thrawn we have now. People might disagree with me on this. I think he's better than the Thrawn we had in the original 3 books. Even Timothy Zahn was like, given the opportunity, hey, do you want to write a Thrawn book again? Yeah. He wasn't like, no, the old one is sacred. He was like, hell yeah. Now I know even more about Thrawn than I did before. So there's always room for growth with that. And yes, I understand if you got invested in 20 years worth of EU, that's a lot of scratch you put up for those books. So I completely understand if when they said, we're scrapping all that, it's no longer canon, that would sting, especially in the wallet. Like right now, if they told me, Andrew, all the new stuff since the buyout is scrapped too because we have a better idea, I'd be like, I just friggin' spent like $2,000 on those books. They're just sitting on my shelf now. So yeah, I get it. Like, trust me, we get it. But there's a quality control that is present now. That was not present then. Back then it was really the Old West. It was the Wild West. Anything goes. Yeah. And it really became a sense of not working together, but just like, oh, I have a contract to write a Star Wars book. Well, I'm going to make mine the most important of all. Yeah. And then that's how we got stuff where it's like, oh, I'm going to write about this guy named Thrawn, who is the best Imperial there has ever been. And then you got people who are like, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to write The Force Unleashed, where he is the strongest guy, and he's strong enough to fight Vader all of a sudden. And, oh, he also created the Rebel Alliance symbol because I'm writing this, me. And it was about me. Let me make the best book instead of, telling a cohesive story and making the galaxy richer for it. And I'm hoping now that they are not in that state of mind anymore. I'm hoping now they're like, guys, it's not about me, the writer. This is about this world. This world is important to people. Let's make it quality instead of just what we want. So do you, like, let me pose this question to you. Given the opportunity right now, in new canon, they say, Brock, write a novel. Any time period you want, blah, blah, blah. What would you, like, going into it, what are, for you, like, no-fly zones? You're like, I'm not going to touch this or that. Because
what wouldn't I write?
Yeah, like, what to you is, like, that's for bigger people than me. I'm just writing this little book here. Like, what would you know? Where would you know to, like, stop? You know what I mean?
I'd probably stay away from the current movie time period, just because I feel like you'd be hit with so many tripping blocks. It's like, that's great, you can't do it yet. Yeah. Unless it's like, write 10 books now, we'll pay you this much, and then we'll print it and whatever. But that could work that way. But like, maybe Old Republic, because I feel like you could kind of get away with things.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's not your question. What would I stay away from? Yeah, anything during current day, anything with main cast.
Right.
I think.
I think you'd be smart enough to, like, you wouldn't sit down and be like, I'm going to create a character named Starkiller and he's so strong he can fight the Emperor. Like, I don't think, like, I have enough faith in you that you wouldn't do that. Yeah. And back in the day, before they wiped the slate clean, people were doing that a lot. So it is, in the long run, a very, very good thing that they did it. Yeah. And now, look, because they did it, we got 2 movies where, he hasn't had a huge role, but Chewbacca has had great scene. Like, arguably now, my favorite Chewbacca scene of all time is him showing up on Crate in that Falcon and just tearing stuff
he's
up.
Flying too,
yeah. So, like, we would not have got that if they had stuck to the old ways. Kylo Ren, who is quickly becoming one of the most intriguing characters in Star Wars ever, we would not have gotten him if they'd stuck to the old ways, because they'd be tied down to, well, he has to have his sister, he has to have his younger brother, he has to be born on this planet and raised this way. And the stuff with Luke, stuff that not everybody loved it. We loved Luke. That wouldn't have worked because he has to have done this on Yavin 4 now because this book said so. I think like what you said about being like you don't want to write in the new trilogy because you'd be boxed in. It'd be the same problem for them, just 100-fold, because they can't. Their hands are tied everywhere.
I think like what was engaging about the expanded universe was there was battles and stuff like that, but there was a lot of peacetime. Like the thing that I liked in the solo stories of the solo kids was like it's just Anakin going to the academy and like getting into adventures where there's in trouble, but it wasn't a war. So it's like. People might disagree with me. I don't think you can make a movie about that. I don't think people will be that interested in it. Exactly. There's a lot of cool, like if you don't know, Anakin Solo's story. He goes to the academy. He meets Lobaka is his older son. His friend character is a girl from Tatooine who is a Tusken Raider, but she doesn't wear the getup. Mm-hmm. So you get this idea of like there's a person in that thing. They don't look like that. That's not their face. That's just gear. And because she lives on a desert planet, she doesn't wear shoes the whole time because they're on Yavin, so it's cool there. It's a jungle. So they walk on stone constantly. She's like, I like walking barefoot. It's like that idea is cool, but like, do you make a movie about that?
Exactly.
Not really. Make maybe a TV show, but like, so like that's the thing. It's as much as we love that stuff. Star Wars makes you like, we're gonna have a space battle. It's like there's a lot of books that didn't entail that at all. Not a lot, but you know what I mean. Like it's just like you gotta have Jedi and you gotta have a space battle of some sort.
And you know the reason why is like we love space battles. Reading a space battle is not fun.
No, exactly.
Watching one is, but reading one is not. That's why those books did not have very many.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a good point. Like it just, I'm not saying just forget it. Destroy the past. Get rid of the past. Destroy it. Like it's kill it. Like we just gotta move on and understand that new people. I would argue that if you, like you said, like expanded universe, if we followed those rules, we'd be even more constrained right now. Mm-hmm. The only reason they can't talk about Luke and Leia in like current day books is one, we don't want some author deciding where our story goes. Two, we don't want to spoil the movie. So after the fact, it should be exciting. Like I'm hoping the next cartoon is what happens between Jedi and Force Awakens.
Oh, 100%. That's what I want to.
And they could do about Luke.
Yeah.
And Leia and like whatever. Like they could just explain all of it there, not put it in movies, but we'll see.
We'll see. And I mean, Old Republic is coming too.
Yeah.
And like what you said, like you have so much more room to play there.
Yeah.
Again, you wouldn't have that much room if they kept the Old Republic stuff canon.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Oh, give us a nice Old Republic movie." Why? Mm-hmm. You know how that story ends.
Exactly,
the beautiful twist in that story is common knowledge now.
Yeah,
It's not going to wow you a second time just to see it on screen. It's going to wow you less because you're not playing it this time. So let that past die in that case. Give everything can be made better. Everything that was great, because there was beautiful stuff in the old Legends universe, it's not dead. Like Brock said, you can still go buy those books and read them, and Story Group will know what was good, and they will integrate it into the new world. So Mara Jade is not dead, guys.
Yeah.
Talon Card is not dead. Dash Rendar is not dead. They will be back.
Well, the guy that voiced him is.
Oh.
R.I.P.
Too soon. But long story short, don't fret. The EU was what it was. The current EU is what it is. And they know what they're doing. These are professionals now, and they have the skills to share everything now.
Yeah.
That was not a thing before. So rest easy. Star Wars canon is only getting better from here on out. Until next time, this has been High Ground. I'm Andrew Fantasia.
And I'm Andrew Fantasia.
Which one of us are you going to shoot? You were always Scum, by the way.
Andrew Scum.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.